from Uganda, looking really, really good, as was this man, Joshua Cheptegei, who pretty much broke away in the last kilometre and a half and had the race sewed up. And a really, really good time. He crossed the line in 27:28, which was the fourth fastest time in the world that year. And, of course, one of the fastest times in South Africa ever run. This is where Mercedes Chillingat made her move. She came through in a personal best in 31:33. And that was the 2017 highlights. And really, really fantastic way to start the first of the FNB Durban 10-kilometre city surf races. So 2018, the big contenders were back. There was Yvette van Zyl. She was looking for something really, really special. She had a phenomenal year in 2018 and was looking for something special here in Durban. It was a massive start, more than the previous year in terms of entries. The obligatory TV runner, and there was Stella Chasang, and the Yvette van Zyl really, really looking very strong that year. But as in the past, it was Julian Wonders who would be setting the pace. Joshua Cheptegei sitting very pretty, as he always does, before he starts to take control. Elroy Galant at that point in time looking very good. And this was the race for second and third in the women's race. Whereas up front, Joshua Cheptegei was starting to drive the bus. Stella Chasang coming to the front and having a really, really good race in the women's race, as was Yvette van Zyl. She was having an absolute blindness. And this is roundabout where Joshua Cheptegei took control at the Puma 100-meter sprint. And Joshua Cheptegei now moving away. And that was roundabout the 8 kilometers. Stella Chasang was really in control of the women's race. And 8 kilometers, here we go, was Joshua Cheptegei moving away. Julian Wonders beginning to struggle. He was looking over his shoulder, making sure second place was confirmed. And Yvette van Zyl looking really, really good there. She was chasing a time of sub 32 and came very, very close. But this man, Joshua Cheptegei, total control of the race. 27:16, which was an all-comers record, so the fastest ever in South Africa, and also the fastest on African soil in 2018. Stella Chasang was in total control of the women's race. This was the last kilometre where she came in. There was daylight between her and the rest of the field, and she too would come in for a new personal best, and what was then an all-comers record, which has subsequently been broken. That was 31:14, and Stella Chasang, with the Commonwealth 10,000 meter champion in 2018, seems to be liking South Africa. Well, these are the scenes now here in Durban, and it's the times from last year's results. Stella Chasang taking Mercedes Chillingat quite comfortably there. Yvette van Zyl, 32:06, just missing out on that sub 32 clocking. She was disappointed. She was really, really gunning for it, and I have never seen her run so hard to chase a time. She was in phenomenal form in 2018. And hoping to see much of the same this year here in 2019. Glenrose Klaber has come through very, very well this year as well. Good run there. And this is how the men's looked. 27:16 then for Joshua Cheptegei. It is the all-comers record here in South Africa. It is the course record here. And it was the second fastest time in the world last year. A huge performance there by Julian Wonders. A European record, a Swiss record. And Moses Koech and Stephen Kieser and Mande Bushendich taking the top 5. So all foreigners taking the top 5, with Stephen McCorker running his best time here on this course, 28:18. He's a much better athlete than that, and hope to see some fireworks from him today. Interesting, Ryan Pachlele was there in 8th. The Tornado from Tembisa is what they call him, a superb 59-meter athlete. Elroy Galant there finishing in 9th. Well, Kieran, it's a bit breezy here on the finish line, but we're going to go down to the start to Mosibudi Whitehead and see what it's like down there as the 9,000 runners gather for that start at 7 o'clock.
Good morning and welcome from the start of the 2019 FNB Durban 10-kilometer city surf run. Almost 10,000 runners have descended upon this race this year in 2019 to run through the streets of Durban. What about the weather there? Slightly overcast. There was a little bit of wind this morning, but right now the conditions looking perfect for a very fast race. We're expecting a great women's race, as you've heard the guys, Manfred Seidler and Kuhn Walker tell us. But what's important here is the guys at the back of the field who are just streaming in. We're standing here next to Batch E as the guys walk in, and we'll greet them. Sanbona ninjani khulumani nami niqhamukapi amagama uphumzile wakuphi
What's Phoenix?
awusitshele nje finish time yakho namhlanje oyibhekile
Ngikale u45.
45
because of the weather.
45 minutes because of the weather, she says. She's fit. Gents, ngathi uzonishiya phansi lo.
Hayi mfethu mina ngomuzi wangcobo ngiqhamuke emawoti namhlanje ngigesile u30 minutes.
30 minutes.
Ngoba ngangishayile 47 minutes last year, manje ngigesile 30 minutes.
He says he ran 47 minutes last year and this year he wants to run 30 minutes. Ujime kahle kodwa.
Ya ngijime kahle mfethu, hayi ngifithi ngokwanele.
Hola. Okay, sisi.
Yebo futhi.
Ngabe amalungiselelo wakho ahambe kahle?
Yes baba ahambe kahle and I'm ready. Last year ngenza u1 hour 15 and the aim yami ukuthi ngenze at least 1 hour 10.
Aha. So there you have it. She says 1 hour 15 last year, 1 hour 10 this year is what she's aiming for. And this is the vibe on the start. We've got lots of different buses coming on, people trying to run sub 45 minutes or sub 50 minutes, and also those doing it for charity, wearing fancy dress. So a lot happening here at the 2019 FNB Durban 10 kilometer city surf run. That's the back end of the field. We'll go back to the guys in studio who will tell us a little bit more about the fast time that we're expecting this year, in particular Stephen Kisa from Uganda, who should run sub 27 minutes if the weather agrees.
Well, there you have it from the start line. Musibori Whitehead having a lot of fun. Q and this guy, 47, wants to run 30 minutes. He's going to be with the top ladies.
Yeah, that's going to be quite interesting to see, especially because he had a C batch seeding there, so he's going to have to run through a lot of people. But as we look at the elite women, without a doubt, Manfred, the most competitive women's field we've seen over 10 kilometers in the history of South Africa. Evelyn Churcher, 66-minute half marathon runner, Pauline Wanjiku as well from Kenya. But a beautiful field assembled here, and it's going to be a case of, can the South Africans keep up? I don't think we're going to see some of the South Africans, especially with the likes of Sheila Chepkurui, who's run 29:57, the fastest time in the world this year over 10 kilometers, and she's here in Durban.
Yeah, Sheila Chepkurui, a huge coup for the organisers here, and well done to the organisers for bringing out the fastest lady in the world, the second fastest ever. She's missing that world record by 13 seconds. That's Sheila Chepkurui from Kenya. The defending champion in there as well, Stella Chesang, and she said at the press conference early on, hope to hear from her as well, that she's looking forward to defending her title. I'm interested to see how Mary Ikiru does, 15:35 at altitude in Nairobi for the 5,000 meters. She ran the FNB Joburg 10K city run. That was her first effort on the road, just over 34 minutes. And I think that was a pretty good effort for her first 10K on the road, and especially at that altitude. But yeah, the women's race really, really looking exciting.
Yeah, I think we're going to see some really fireworks perhaps in this win today. As you mentioned, Sheila Chepkurui, that 29:57 that she ran was actually her first race back after having a child. So that's amazing. And Durban is kind to her. Back in 2016, she won the African champs over 5,000 meters here in Durban, 15:05. So perhaps Durban is a city for winning. We're going to see some exciting racing today.
Well, I do absolutely think that the women's race this year is really going to be the race to watch and the race to follow. We got 4 athletes under 32 minutes in the women's race, one of them under 30, one of them under 31. The other 2 then under 32, and the other 30, and 4 athletes under 33 minutes for the woman. That is phenomenal.
Yeah, really phenomenal. The only damper to fast time today will obviously be this wind. There's a long stretch when they run along Masabalala Yengwe Avenue, and that's going to be in their face. But once they make the turn onto the beachfront here, we're going to see some very fast kilometers. The other question, Manfred, is the FNB Durban 10K has been dominated in both years by the Ugandans. I think we're going to see a change this year with Sheila and Pauline both being from Kenya. Stella Chesang really wants to defend her title, but then in the men's race, we've got Stephen Kisa, but a whole host of top Kenyan athletes as well.
We do, and of course Alfred Ngeno having won the Joburg FNB 10K City Run. And yeah, so as you're quite right, the Kenyans should be making quite an impression.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, before we go into the men, a little about what's coming up with the men, we did have a chance to speak to the defending champion Stella Chesang and the world's fastest woman Sheila Chepkorea, and here's what they had to say.
I have no pressure during the race. It will depend only with the weather, and if the body responds, it will be good for me. Looking forward for good results.
I want to run my best. Last year I ran my BB here in Durban, and people were not there. And this year people are there, the strong people are there, and I hope to break my time.
Well, South Africa's favourite athlete, Stephen Mokorka, was also at the press conference, having come back from an incredible run in Doha where he finished 5th in the marathon, and he was in an ambivalent mood.
It's different this time. Like I said earlier, I ran a marathon 2 weeks later, I ran a PV, so this is a 10 kilos, it's going to be faster. But you know, sometimes you have to test your body, so I hope the marathon didn't take too much from my body, but I'm just going to give it a try and see how it works out. So if I can be there, maybe the first 5Ks, I think I will do well.
Pleased with the Joburg run, you know, I actually surprised myself to get a position 3, you know. Definitely try to do the same, you know, to get a podium place and also try to go for a faster time. We've got a good stellar field of athletes here, you know, with Stephen Kisa of Uganda and also our own Stephen, you know. So definitely looking for a great...
Well, there you heard it from Stephen Mokorka and Elroy Galan, South Africa's leading contenders. We're going to go back to the start now. Musi Bodi, of course, setting the scene there for us.
For the FNB. Well, we were at the back of the pack for the 2019 FNB Durban 10-kilometer city surf run. Now we are at the sharp end of the field. Let's see what we can expect from some of these very, very top runners. And let's talk to some of them here. I'll greet these two young men, promising juniors who are doing well in South Africa. Kabelo, Tumisang, gentlemen, good morning, good morning, good morning.
You guys are going to start getting your warm-ups.
Two promising juniors who are now in the senior ranks, hoping to mix it up with some of the sharp end of the field. You see Elroy Galant and others. Bontate, likuta jang hale matale le top runner bo Elroy. Banna batswang bo Uganda and bo Kenya. How do you feel about racing these top runners today?
We feel motivated.
You feel motivated. Kabelo, how do you feel about this?
I feel like it's sharp because and about the thing. I can't so yeah, it's sharp. Ready for racing.
The ladies' race in particular is expected to be hot, hot, hot. We've got 5 runners who are 32 minutes and...
Alright, in 10 seconds we're going to have...
Let's get to some of the ladies here on the start line and greet them this morning. Just quickly, ladies, good luck. Are you looking forward to the race this morning?
Yes, I'm looking forward to run PB here today. Yeah.
And you were running in Johannesburg yesterday morning?
Yes, I was doing fun run yesterday. Yeah.
So you're ready to mix it up with these top runners next to you?
Yes, I want to chase them, yeah.
Okay, and that's it. Let's see what the start has in for us.
Let's go, Durban! Let's make that way! Well,
that's the warm-up. We've got 10 minutes to the start. So basically what happens now is that move forward to the start at 5 minutes. Countdown. We then have an national anthem playing. We'll get underway. Here I saw Glenrose there smiling. She looks confident, very calm.
Yeah, you know, Glenrose is a really great athlete, and we saw her there standing at the start at Blue Lagoon. They'll make that right turn, the first and second kilometers and third kilometers along that very windy stretch of Masabalala Yengwe Avenue as they go past the famous Kingsmead Cricket Stadium through town in the center of Durban, through the city hall, back onto the beachfront, and it's a long stretch to finish just in front of the Suncoast Casino and Entertainment World, where we are here for the 2019 FNB Durban 10 kilometer. A very fast route, Manfred, but the only deterring factor right now is the wind. Definitely, and also when you hear the announcer shouting all the finish times, and you're like, where on earth is this finish? But yeah, it's a very fast finish, and if you remember last year, Joshua Cheptegei, he was clocking sub 240s coming down this promenade, so expecting some big fireworks later today. There's a world-class field here, as you can see all the athletes there on the screen, and I'm excited for today. You know, brilliant organization, this FNB series, not just the Durban race. You know, there's also the event in Cape Town and Joburg, and the Cape Town and Durban events actually RAAF bronze label and going for gold next year. So Michael Mayer doing a fantastic job, not only bringing these world-class international athletes into the country, but our top South Africans getting a chance to run in a label event, get a bit of appearance money, and you know, make their name on the world stage too. Yeah, Press is in very good shape. He's trained and mentored under Hendrik Ramala, the great Hendrik Ramala in South Africa. Multiple South African national titles to his name. Glenrose herself as well, we see her there in the middle of the screen, very short. They say dynamite comes in small packages. That's definitely the case with Glenrose. She actually trains together with Stephen Mokoka, the SA 10 kilometer national record holder, and Glenrose has had a phenomenal year. Besides 4 national titles from 10,000 meters, 10 kilometers cross country and the half marathon, our standout performance from Glenrose came in Buenos Aires in Argentina when she ran that 69-minute half marathon. That in itself is world-class on the international stage.
Well, only the third South African ever to break 70 minutes. She also clocked her personal best in the 10 kilometer going to that 69.46 was the winning time. She ran 32.59, and that's also where Stephen Mokoka. It's also where Stephen Mokoka ran his best half marathon.
Yeah, definitely. Stephen Mokoka smashing that record, 59.50, becoming the first South African to break an hour on the half marathon distance over a non-aided course. Remember, Hendrik Ramala has gone quicker, but that was on the aided Lisbon course, so it doesn't count for record statistics. But yeah, Stephen in the shape of his life. He just recently ran the World Championships in the marathon in Doha, coming 5th there. So today is going to be a bit of an uptake on speed.
Well, we're going to go to the start line very quickly now, where Mosibodi is with the world leader, Sheila Cheptegei.
How was the weather this morning? You spoke about the weather. How are you feeling about the weather?
The weather is good.
Good for running.
Yes, good for running.
Okay. She says she's tense and she's ready to race. Good luck. Good luck, Sheila.
Thank you.
Good luck. Ready to race?
Well, Sheila Cheptegei ready to race, Kuhn, you've heard it. So obviously looking for something special.
Yeah, she said that the wind and the weather is good for racing, and it's not going to phase her. So perhaps, you know, the pace that she's running, there will be a good couple, I would say, elite men around her. So perhaps they can block the wind for her, and she's still going to go for a fast time.
Yeah. Well, I've said it before, I'm going to say it again. I think the women's race is going to be, it's probably the best ever field we've ever seen in South Africa. And it seems like the wind is beginning to die down here on the finish line, so promising times.
Yeah, the wind, we're not really feeling it that much right now. And if you remember back in former races in 2017, it was just as windy as this. And Joshua Cheptegei and, his fellow athletes ran a fast time that day. So let's see what will happen.
Well, you heard that Joshua Cheptegei running the all-comers record here. The athletes now getting ready on the start line, and we're about 4 minutes away from the start of the 2019 F&B Durban 10-kilometer City Surf Run. What's going to happen in the next couple of minutes? We'll play the national anthem, and the runners will start with the whistle. There won't be a gun. It's going to be a whistle as the marshals there and officials clearing the road. And you can see on the right-hand side is where the women are lining up, and the men will line up on the left. And it's a who's who of South African and international road running. Adam Lipschitz in there, a local here, Durban Q, and a friend of yours, and really looking in good shape as well. I reckon he should be breaking 29 minutes too.
Yeah, I think today is the day to do it. He ran 29:12 in the recent Cape Town 10-kilometer, and he's quite outspoken and vocal on Twitter. He's got his hashtag there, Social Runners Club. He doesn't see himself as an elite athlete, but I can guarantee you when you are hovering around sub 29 minutes, you are definitely in the elite ranking.
Well, Adam Lipschitz, good luck to him. And we're going to be keeping a very close eye, and we haven't spoken much about him, Uganda's Stephen Kisa. He's hiding there in the men's pack. I see Alfred Ngeno in there. I see Alroy Galant in there. Stephen Makoka is also hiding there. Precious Mashela there on the left at the start here in Blue Lagoon. Yvette van Zyl there, very prominent on the right amongst the women. Stella Chisang in the orange and white of NN Running, the defending champion. And right on the right-hand side there, that is Sheila Chipkorea. That is who you're going to be looking out for. The Kenyan, who is the fastest in the world this year. 29:57. It's absolutely mind-boggling. Imagine doing 10 kilometers in literally just under 3 minutes a kilometer. Absolutely flying. The media on the start line getting ready to capture the start, and huge excitement down there on the start. You heard it from Musibodi. You saw how he was interacting with people, and there'll be some serious butterflies going on right now, Kieran.
Yeah, definitely. Close to 10,000 athletes lined up today for the F&B Durban 10-kilometer. Fantastic, the whole of Durban coming together for this short distance event. There's not too many 10 kilometers on offer down in Durban, so when the Durbanites do get a chance to run a quick 10 kilometer, they take it with all hands.
It's also really, really good to see how Durban has embraced this race. Started off with about 7,000 athletes and is now it's just over 9,000 runners. And that's a really good sign. The entire series is over 40,000 runners. There's definitely a resurgence here in road running from a social point of view. I love the fact that this series brings the best of the world to rub shoulders with those of us who just really want to go out and have a run.
Yeah, definitely. That's the beauty of running as a sport. You can be in Moses Mabhida Soccer Stadium and watching, your favorite Cristiano Ronaldo or the likes playing soccer, but you can't actually play soccer with them. Whereas in running, you've got athletes like Joshua Cheptegei, Sheila Chipkorea, who's lining up here today. You can stand right next to on the start line if you're one of the elites, but where else can you actually enjoy a course, run with the world's best? Running brings everyone together, and we're seeing a resurgence of it, especially, I won't mention what happened yesterday, but you know what I'm talking about.
We have to mention what happened yesterday. We saw some absolute history in the making as we are getting ready for the start. By my watch, I've got 20 seconds to get to the start. And that's what you're looking at. The best field ever assembled in South Africa for a women's race. A deep men's race, which will possibly, without the likes of a Joshua Cheptegei there, seeing the likes of maybe a more competitive men's race. We've always had Joshua Cheptegei dominating, with Julian Wonders trying to set the pace almost for him, and he certainly benefited from that. But here we go. Off they go. The elite men's have started off, and remember, they will start before the rest of the field. and this mass of athletes, elite athletes, heading off down towards the old NMR Avenue.
Yeah, the start there on Athlone Drive, just next to the famous Blue Lagoon down here in Durban, and they're going to be making that right turn now, and then it's onto the long straight of Masabalala Yangwe Avenue down here in Durban, the old NMR Avenue as it was formerly known. And you know, it was interesting that you mentioned there Julian Wonders, Manfred. The fact that Julian Wonders was in the race the past 2 years, he's a very aggressive athlete. He likes to push the pace, and without him here today, I think the men's race is going to become tactical. They're not after quick times. Perhaps in the women's race they'll be looking at faster times, but you can already see there, as the big bunch has formed, the athletes on the far left of the picture, actually a veteran with that 40 on his category tag there, Simpiwe Zulu, a local athlete here from KZN. And he is mixing it up with some of the best athletes here, and you can tell from this early stage that the pace is not as quick as it was last year. But you know, records are there to be broken all the time, but the titles are for whatever stays, and that's what the guys are going to be going for today.
Well, a big bunch of leading contenders here. Kuhn quite correctly saying it's already a bit more tactical than we've seen. You can actually see them slow down. That fast start is always the case in a road race. It is frenetic, and then they settle in. But round about this point in time is where we already had a group driven by Julian Wonders, who started to break away. That included Stephen Mokoka. It included Elroy Galant. Elroy Galant very prominent in there. And Elroy is very, very excited. He's 3 weeks after his marathon, where he ran a 2:10 in Cape Town, and he's targeting a sub 28. I don't think we're going to see a sub 28 today, but I do think this is going to be the most competitive men's race we've ever seen.
Yes, definitely, Manfred. I don't think we're going to see that sub 28 today, as we see Simpiwe Zulu still in the lead there, with a whole host of athletes behind him, world-class athletes for that case. But yeah, you know, the pace today is a little bit irrelevant in this weather, with Elroy Galant also coming off that marathon. But we see the elite woman there, and Taudu Nare in the colors of Nedbank Ethiopia. She's well known now on the South African circuit, finishing second overall in the Spa Grand Prix series. But right in front there is Evelyn Churcher, the NN running team athlete. Just behind her, Sheila Chepkurui, and a whole host of athletes. And Manfred, complete contrast to the men's race. These women have gone out hard.
Indeed. Evelyn Churcher, of course, a sub 31. She's a sub 31 at 30 minutes and 43 seconds. She ran it in Tilburg, not in Tilburg, I beg your pardon. She ran it earlier this year. And already you can see, you actually cannot see Stella Chesang in the picture, the defending champion. She started a little bit more conservatively, and I don't know if that's because this is Sheila and Evelyn really, really driving this pace right from the gun, and Stella is hanging back a bit, or this pace is too fast for her.
Yeah, you must remember that with Evelyn, the NN athlete there, she ran a 66-minute half marathon not so long ago, in September in Copenhagen, and in conditions that were actually probably a little bit worse than this, Manfred. It was very, very windy. We did see a world record set that day in the men's race, but Evelyn is used to running in these conditions, and you can see compared to the men's race, they're really driving this pace. A lot of these, the male athletes around her is really struggling to keep up at this stage, and it'll be interesting to see split times. I know we've got some maths along the way. I think it's 3K, 5K and 9K, if I'm not mistaken, along the route. So it'll be very interesting to see the first 3 kilometer split, just to get a bit of an indication of the projected finish time. But on the left of the side of the screen there, Manfred, the men now, the time for TV time, as I say, for some of the TV runners is over now, and it's
Real
the Ugandans and the
started.
Kenyans who say, we've come here to run fast, and this is not a holiday. We're here for business.
That looks like Stephen Kisa on the front end of that men's pack. Elroy Galant sitting very pretty in there. I think I see Alfred Ngeno there as well. Alfred Ngeno, of course, having won the FNB Joburg 10K City Run. And this is the rest of the field as they get away from the start. Almost 9,000 athletes, runners, looking for their own times, their own goals, their own ambitions, and a lot of vibe out on the routes as well. So it's definitely road running has definitely changed, and that people are now having a lot more fun. It's a lot less serious in the back end. It's very, very serious on the front end here. In the men's race, Stephen Kieser driving that men's bunch. He's not afraid to take the lead, Kieran. He did say at the press conference he doesn't mind being the favourite. He's got the fastest time in the field, 27:13. It's a Ugandan record which he set in Laredo, Texas in March this year. Not scared to drive the pace, which is quite promising.
Yeah, definitely, Manfred, and he's got quite a similar style to Joshua Cheptegei, the last two winners here in the FNB Durban 10K. And the interesting athlete that I'm going to look out for here is the one just behind him, William Sitonic. He only has a 28:32 10K best on the road, as they see the 2 kilometer mark there, 5:51. So the pace not that fast, but I think it will get a lot faster. But going back to Sitonic, the result that stands out for me is the 26:54 10,000 meter. He ran that. Granted, it was back in 2016 in the Prefontaine Classic, but the athlete that he made run right to the line was Mo Farah, who was undefeated over 10,000 meter for numerous years, double Olympic champion, and he's here today. As we see the current men's record there, Joshua Cheptegei, that 27:16 coming from last year's event, not here in the field today, but a whole host of world-class athletes coming to replace him.
Yeah, indeed, and you said Kieran, not so fast for the first 2 kilometers. That's quite correct. Here's your prize money again, 30,000 Rand for the first athlete across the line. And Stephen Kieser doing a great job there of driving the pace. They are beginning to string out. So, as you said, the first 2 kilometers not that fast. They are going to start picking up the pace. Stephen Mokoka is hiding in that pack. And a very, very wily athlete. So William Sitonic, as you mentioned, also a really, really exciting athlete there, and sitting behind Stephen Kieser. And I wonder if this is a good idea for Stephen Kieser to be driving this pack so early on. He's doing all the work. They're sitting behind him.
Yeah, he's really doing the work. I think it's probably not the wisest choice. We have seen him do it here in the past down in Durban, where he's done it with Joshua Cheptegei. But you know, when the pace is slow like this, granted the weather is quite windy here down in Durban, but this plays into the hands of athletes like Ulrich Halant and Stephen Mokoka. Granted, they are coming just off a marathon, so their legs won't have that much zip in it. But Ulrich Halant, 13:05, a 5,000 meter SA record holder. Stephen Mokoka himself, a former SA 1,500 meter champion. He's got a whole host of SA titles from 1,500 meters all the way up through to the marathon. And when it comes down to a sprint finish, you can't discount athletes like that. Even though Ulrich, as I mentioned, was coming off that marathon, he finished third in the recent FNB Joburg 10 kilometer, where he himself said that he was surprised. So in the shape of his life, and the slower the pace, the better for these guys, especially when it comes down to a sprint finish.
Well, they're bunching up again, so Stephen Kieser did throw in a surge and stretch them out a bit. And now back to the woman. And Evelyn Schitcher now handing over the lead to, that looks like Beatrice Mutai out in the front, and also a pretty strong contender as Beatrice Mutai, with Taru Nari having a fantastic run. Stella Chisang still not quite in the picture there. I wonder if she isn't just trying to get back. She, of course, is the course record holder. It was the all-comers record until Hilaria Johannes broke that earlier this year. 30:59. Hilaria Johannes not in this field, but certainly Sheila sitting there quite pretty. I see Evelyn Churcher now coming back to the front again. Quite clearly, these women have decided it's time to take this race by the scruff of the neck.
And the issue for Stella Chisang now, it's that she will be in no man's land, so to speak, with these athletes, Evelyn and Sheila and Tadu, and so they've got men around her, so a little bit of breaking of the wind, so to speak, but Chisang will be on her own. But it's going to be very interesting to see as they go towards the 5 kilometer mark what the split time, and at this stage I'm very impressed with the Nedbank Running Club athletes. Nare, you know, she's been racing a whole host of races this year, won the SA half marathon title. It was her debut, running just over 70 minutes there, but in the recent Spa Ladies Race final, which was only last week, she only managed a 4th place there. So we are granted only 10 minutes into the event, but so far she's looking really good, hanging with these world-class athletes like Chep Kirui and Chocho.
Well, we saw a long shot going back down the road, and I saw no sign of the defending champion, which is ominous indeed. She didn't have the best of world championships. She wasn't that happy with that result. And yeah, look, the front ladies, of course, Evelyn Church driving that with Beatrice Mutai. Taranari is saying really good. This has definitely turned into a tactical affair. It's bunched. Everybody is watching each other. And Stephen Mokoka just sitting in there, loping along as he always done. Alra on the left-hand side also looking very comfortable. Stephen Kisa has decided, I'm not going to be the pacemaker, and is sitting in the bunch. Although, as I say that, he starts to come to the front. And it looks like, is that Alfred Ngena on the front there? No, it's not.
No, I think Alfred was running in the colours of the Nedbank Running Club, as he did when he won the FNB Joburg 10K. But Manfred, this is quite a weird sight to see. There's a bunch of over 30 guys together in the FNB Durban 10K, and it's not like we've seen over the previous 2 years. We've always seen maybe 4 guys, 5 guys at most, and besides the women who are really gunning for a fast time today, the men have just said, no, this wind is too much, let's just make it tactical. But I can guarantee you, once they go through town, through the city hall towards 7-8 kilometers mark, and they make that left turn back onto the beachfront, we are going to see some really, really fast running, as we have seen previously, and that's when the racing will get underway in the men's race.
Well, we saw a last kilometer of 2:40 by the great Eliud Kipchoge yesterday when he broke that 2 hours. Will we see a 2:40 in the last kilometer here in the men's race? We'll have to wait and see. Beatrice Mutai on the ladies' race certainly driving that, and looks like Tarunara has dropped off there, Kieran.
Yeah, we can't see Nauru in that pack, so perhaps the early pace there was a bit too much for her. Beatrice Mutai really pushing the pace together there with Chip Kururi and Churcho. And Churcho, as I mentioned earlier, used to running in these very windy conditions. That 66-minute half marathon in Copenhagen not so long ago. As we see an overhead shot there of the men's race, probably around 15 to 20 athletes there, and they're making their way past the Kingsmead Cricket Stadium, so towards the 5-kilometer mark. Not expecting any fast times here in the men's race, but so far that pack sitting together, and expect some fireworks soon once they go through the center of town.
Well, a big bunch for the men, as Kieran quite rightly says, going past the Kings Park sporting ground, if you would. And the women's race looking a lot different. 3 athletes now. Taranari having dropped off the pace. Was surprised to see her, Kieran, to be that far that far up front with the women, because they were certainly, by the looks of it, moving quite fast, and having dropped off right now. She is a 32.26 at best, 32.36 at best. You're dealing with athletes who are sub 31, even sub 30. It's a different ballgame.
Yeah, definitely. I think the women, it would be hard to indicate just by pace, but they're not that far behind the men. As we saw that overhead shot where the men were running, the women have just gone past that, and together with Ben Delaporte, the triathlete at the back of the ladies pack there, himself a 30-minute 10K runner, so they're running really good. But the interesting thing that I'm seeing, Manfred, on the left-hand side there in the leading men's race is the local athlete from the Pantane Running Club, which actually was crowned as Team of the Year in the KZN Sports Awards last night. That's Mbuleli Matanga, coached by Mdu Kumalo, local coach here in Durban, and he's coming fresh off a 28:12 10-kilometer in Prague, which coincidentally is the same race where Sheila Chipkuri ran that 29:57. He is a host of talent, really someone to look out for in the future, and actually in that race went through the 5K mark in 13:30 on the road. Out of this world.
Well, he is certainly a talent, and now joining us in commentary was the man on the start line, and he has been following this youngster from KZN quite substantially too. Musibodi, welcome here in the commentary box. Was it fun out there in the start?
Thanks, Manfred. Thanks, Kieran. Yeah, it was fun. Lots and lots of runners actually still making their way towards the start at the back end of the field, but it was at the sharp end where things were quite tense. They spoke about before the race, but also they felt that the wind was perhaps a little less strong than they had expected. Sheila Chepkarui spoke about that, saying that the weather is actually not too bad, and if it plays ball, then she's hoping to run a good time.
Well, the men's now beginning to thin out a little bit, Kieran, and not such a big group as we saw early on, and it just looks like lot of the guys are throwing in a couple of surges just to test the water. Stephen Kieser has decided to drop back 14:21 through the first 5Ks, and as you mentioned, Bulelio Mtanga really looking quite prominently. Elroy Galant, Kevin Kibet, so all the big guns all packed together.
Yeah, it was actually quite a surprise, that 14:21 there through 5K. If you remember earlier in the race, they only went through the 2-kilometer mark in 5:51, so they've definitely picked it up. And I think as they move now towards the centre of town, running past the Durban City Hall, they'll be sheltered a bit by that wind. And as they make that turn back onto the beachfront, technically the wind should be behind them, but being a local here from KZN, living just up the road here in Durban, I've always found that when I run on the beachfront, the wind will be blowing gales into my face, and when I turn around to come back, it's blowing gales into my face again, so I don't quite understand it. Hopefully it's not going to be the case for these guys today.
Well, Stephen Kieser on the front end again, with next to him Ruben Mossop, and Stephen McCorker now coming through to the fore. Mossy, what do you reckon? He did say at the press conference, 5 kilometers, if he's fresh, he's going to see how he's going to, might even then try and make a bit of a surge.
Yeah, and he also spoke about the importance of being fairly conservative through that 5-kilometer mark and not doing something perhaps foolish, like going through in well under 14 minutes in a 13:30. So a 14:20 I think will suit Stephen, given that he's just come from the World Championships. He feels like if he can hang on for as long as possible, given his 1500 meter finishing speed, he can be there and thereabout when the kick comes towards the end of the race. So he'll be happy about the way it's unfolding right now.
Well, Stephen, of course, won that 1500 meter title that Kuhn mentioned here in Durban a good few years ago. He did say to me, though, that towards the end of last year, beginning of this year, because he's shifted to the marathon, he has lost that kick. It's no longer there. So he has to work quite hard in this race as well if he's hoping to make a statement.
Yeah, and is that the hard-running Sibusiso Nzima we see there in front, is recently married?
Yeah, so the recently married Sibusiso Nzima, he got married to his fellow clubmate, Rutendo Inyahora, the Zimbabwean national who's actually in the field today as well, having recently just run the Doha World Championships. But the leading women through 5K, and as we mentioned, Manfred, complete contrast to the men's race. They're really gunning for a fast time, 15:26 by the 29:57 10K woman Sheila Chipkurui, with Beatrice Muchai, Evelyn Churcho with them as well. And Taudu Nare, as you mentioned there, Manfred, going through 3Ks together, is now dropped off 27 seconds. So Stella Chasang, the defending champion, Commonwealth Games champion over 10,000 meters, not having a great run today in 8th. And Gerda Steyn, wow, 9th position, 1 minute behind. Expect to see her coming through and picking up some of the fast starters.
Well, Gerda Steyn would dearly love to break 33 minutes here, and conditions allowing, she probably would. And she's often said that she doesn't quite know how to run the shorter races. She only warms up a little bit later, but Gerda's going to have to start running a lot harder from the front. The men's are certainly, it's almost a cat and mouse scenario for me. Sibusiso Nzima there on the left-hand side seems to be becoming the bus driver here.
Indeed he does. And speaking to him yesterday in the hotel room as all the athletes arrived for the 2019 FNB Durban 10-kilometer city surf run, he felt that he's in pretty good form, and he'll mix it in with the rest, and perhaps a little bit unhappy slightly that he's not counted as one of the main contenders for this race. So perhaps he's got something to prove, does Sibusiso Nzima, and let's see how long he can hold on in this lead bunch.
Well, he has been battling with injury for a few years. He does coach himself, and I wonder if that maybe is not the best of ideas, and maybe he should start looking at a coach, not necessarily to tell him what to do, but just to keep an eye on the shape and say maybe ease back or maybe pick up a little bit. But Sibusiso Nzima is a class athlete. Stephen Mokoka is sitting very pretty there. Stephen Kieser, the two Stevens, also looking very, very prominent on the front, and it is beginning to shape up now to the sharp end of the race. And Ewan, as you mentioned earlier, they are going to pick up as we go back to the lead, and does it look like well, Sheila is certainly allowing Evelina to do all the work.
Yeah, Evelyn is literally the unofficial pacemaker in the women's race, but I wouldn't call her a pacemaker with times of 30 minutes over 10Ks and 66 minutes over the half marathon. A very, very strong in running athlete, but she's got company with her. It's going to be an exciting race. I think definitely these are the three women that will be on the podium. But the question remains, which one will get here first?
Yeah, well, Beatrice Muta, of course, her best is a 31, which she ran a couple of years ago. Certainly not scared to take it on with the two ladies who've gone faster than 31. Mosibudi, what do you think?
Yeah, she spoke about it, especially at the pre-race press conference. Did Beatrice Muta, speaking about the fact that that run of 31:47 at the Commonwealth Games on the track gave her an immense amount of confidence, even though she finished outside the medals in 4th place. She believes that after that, it was the kind of psychological breakthrough she needed. And now, as you say, she's not afraid to go with the early pace as they get onto that Puma 100-meter sprint.
That's the man. We're going to see Mosibori on that 100-meter sprint later. He's going to test his skill. 17 seconds is the bet. And the men's race has certainly whittled down quite a bit. The guys are beginning to string out. They are beginning to up the tempo.
Yeah, I'm quite interested to see what their split was for that Puma 100-meter sprint, just to see if Mosibori can run faster when he does it later on fresh legs.
Accepted? No chance, no chance.
But yeah, they've made their way through that Puma 100-meter sprint, and having said that, there was a bit of a sprint there by the athletes in the pack. Sibusiso Nzima, who's actually very fond of Durban, so to speak. He's won the Durban City Marathon here the last 2 years, but 2028 was that split there at 7.2 Ks by none other than the Kenyan athlete Alfred Ngeno, in very, very good shape. He's run a 60-minute half marathon this year, already in the Berlin half, and he is the champion from the FNB Joburg 10 kilometer. But Elroy Galant, Bernard B, the Kenyan, Kevin Kibet, a whole host of Kenyans together with Stephen Kisa, the lone Ugandan at this stage. But you can see definitely that pack has split up. And as the women will be coming through the Puma 100 meter not too long from now, they're running a pace of under 31 minutes for 10 kilometers. It'll be interesting to see if it is still the three that are together.
Well, Bernard B having a really, really good run. He showed some huge potential last year in PE at the half marathon and has seemed to fade a little bit. Here we go. Leading ladies on the Puma 100 meter sprint. And it does look like Sheila Chepkorea is starting to exert her dominance here.
Yeah, she looks very comfortable. And in fact, she looks very self-assured. Just speaking to her before the race, she didn't want to talk much, as you can expect minutes before a big race. She said she was tense. That was very important. She said she was tense as there looks to be maybe a slight break coming around the corner. Said she was tense, but she's looking forward to a good performance, and she does seem to be now ready to go as she starts to hit the front after the 7-kilometer mark of the FNB 10-kilometer City Surf Run.
Yeah, she does seem to be setting the pace here, Kuhn. It looked to me on the face of Evelyn, there was like a little bit of a grimace. Beatrice Muta looked a bit better. Back to the men, 8 kilometers here, 23:08.
Yeah, 23:06, 07 or so there through the 8-kilometer mark as the bike tries to navigate the very, very fast pace of these athletes. And we saw Precious Mashele there in the colors of the NN running team. That's his international sponsor, himself SA 10K champion. You see him now to the front of the race, and he's really, really picking up. And as I mentioned, Manfred, once they turn onto this Durban beachfront, that's where the fireworks are going to come through. And it's Precious Mashele together with Stephen Mokoka, the SA record holder over 10 kilometers, that 27:38. We won't be seeing a time of that today, but they have now taken the challenge up to the Kenyans and Ugandans, and they are saying, come on guys, this may be an RWF bronze label race, but this is our country. We want the victory.
I absolutely love how Mokoka and Precious Mashele have decided to take on the foreign contingent. Here we go. Sheila Chepkorea has definitely taken charge of this race. I do believe that Evelyn Church is starting to look laboured. Beatrice Muta still does look comfortable, Musiburi, but Sheila Chepkorea definitely has taken the race by the scruff of the neck here.
Yeah, look at that stride. Very assured. She's bouncing and she's lengthening that stride slightly as she hits the front. And as we take the aerial shots of the men's race, those two, Precious and Stephen Mokoka, hit the front. Stephen spoke about going to Zoo Lake the Zule group where Precious Mashele trains and spending some time talking to him and his coach Hendrik Ramala. So it looks like even though they don't train together, they have a good understanding as they hit the front together.
Well, this looks like Stephen Mokoka means business. He was very softly spoken, if you would, about his chances at the press conference, but he means business. This is a definitive break here. Precious Mashele maybe have gone too earlier. Mokoka is a wily contender. He's extremely experienced, and they have spread out on the Durban beachfront. I'm willing to put some money on that Mokoka is actually going to come and win his first race in South Africa in how many years?
Yeah,
over 10Ks?
Yeah,
a long time.
Mokoka is definitely in form. Coming off that 5th place in the Doha World Championships Marathon, where he was actually very disappointed with that performance, but they're not that far from the finish, Manfred. He's making his way towards the Pirates Life Saving Club and Suncoast Casino and Entertainment World, where we are here. And this is definitely the break of the race. Stephen Mokoka, the SA record holder over 10 kilometers, he is now, there you see 9 kilometers, 25:44, that split there. So we could definitely going to be seeing a time of under 29 minutes today, Manfred. But as I mentioned earlier, times are pretty irrelevant. It's the victories that count. And it's going to be very hard, Manfred, for one of those athletes now to catch Stephen Mokoka. I think that definitely was a break of the race, as we see the lead woman, Evelyn Churcher, together with Sheila Chepkirui. And this is also going to be coming down to a sprint finish. Obviously, Chepkirui there, 29:57 over 10 kilometer. But you can see there, Manfred, Stephen Mokoka is motoring down this finish straight. He's not that far from the race. I would say perhaps 600 meters to go. But just behind him is that either Alfred Ngeno or Kevin Kibet, the Kenyan athlete, trying to make a break and close that gap, Manfred. But this is going to be down to a sprint finish. I think Stephen Mokoka's got this. I'm not so much of a betting man, but as he makes himself past that Pirates Life Saving Club, he is going to take victory in the 2019 FNB Durban City 10 kilometer.
Photographers are coming in. Now it's time to turn it off and to receive our runners, and the first runners are visible. They are coming, and now they can see the finish line. And you can...
It's by the scruff of the neck. Stephen Mokoka has broken away. Precious Mashele did go a little bit earlier. That is Stephen Kisa in there as well. But Mokoka looking very, very strong. I doubt he made the move too early. Certainly the crowd in the back here getting very, very excited. But his facial expression speaks a lot. He is determined. He wants this race.
Yeah, I think if there's anyone that wants this victory more than anyone in this race, it would be Stephen Mokoka. And I think he is going to take the title. We've got Kibet and, the other Ugandan athlete coming through just behind him. And this is going to come down to a sprint. But I think Stephen is going to have the edge. He's really, really surprised me coming off that marathon here to run the FNB Durban 10K. That marathon definitely still in his legs. But it's going to be Stephen Mokoka, the SA record holder over 10 kilometers, who's going to take victory here today, Manfred. This is an amazing run by the versatile athlete. Numerous national titles from 1500 meters all the way through to the marathon. And he's surprising the 10-kilometer specialist here today to take this victory.
Well, Stephen Mokoka is your 2019 FNB Durban 10-kilometer City Surf Run champion. 28:09, 28:10, 28:11, 28:12 his time. Stephen Kisa coming in second, and it looks like in third there was a
Kevin Kibet.
Kevin Kibet coming in third, but a South African victory finally.
And the Ugandan stranglehold of the FNB Durban 10K has been broken, as we see Precious Mashele there coming in the 4th place, and Matanga coming through for 6th, local athletes here from KZN. I really like that there's a lot of South Africans in the top 10, but the women's race, it's Chepkirui, it's Evelyn Checho, and the other Kenyan athlete just behind her,
Beatrice Mutai.
Yeah, Beatrice Mutai, who's really done a lot of the pacemaking, but I think it's going to be down to Checho and Chepkirui. Chepkirui herself, a former African Games champion over 5,000 meters here in Durban, literally across the road from where we are based here at the finish line. But that statistic that stands out, the 29:57 10 kilometer, her first race back since having a child, Manfred. This is only her 2nd race back since having that child of hers, and this is amazing running. I think we're looking at a future world record holder here in the 10 kilometer in the form of Sheila Chipkarui.
Well, the clock 29:26. How fast can she go? I don't think she's going to break 30 minutes, but a sub 31 could very well be on the cards. I do think we're going to have a very, very tight finish. Evelyn Churcher may have gone through a bad patch, but she certainly doesn't look like she's giving up at this point. I think Beatrice Mutai is starting to fade a bit as the leading ladies vanish amongst the men there, but Sheila Chipkarui, as you mentioned, 29:57 is still the fastest time, and I do think that confidence that she got in that race has to play a big role.
Yes, definitely. 29:57, the fastest time in the world this year, and I think it will remain the fastest time for this year. They're not going to break 30 minutes today, but they are definitely going to go under 31, I would say. And just as you saw in the men's race, they went through 14:21 through the 5K, came back in 28:02 for the finish. So it was a very much faster second half, and this is definitely the case here. As we see, Chipkarui, Manfred, has got that break. This is the winning move of the race.
Well, Chipkarui certainly has broken that stranglehold. I thought for a second that Beatrice Mutai was lagging off. She is working very hard. She's going to try and catch that second spot, but Sheila Chipkarui is definitely broken away here. 40 right now the clock. A sub 31 could potentially be on the card. We could see another course record here, and a Kenyan coming through. Here we go. 30:53 for Sheila Chipkarui, just behind her Evelyn Churcher and Beatrice Mutai. Also, maybe just sneaking under 31 minutes. A superbly fast finish.
Manfred, that was a race for the ages here. A new course record by Sheila Chipkarui, as we see Michael Mayer from Stillwater Athletics welcoming her through there. But not only, Manfred, have we seen a new course record in the FNB Durban City 10 kilometer, but the fastest time ever run in South African soil. It did belong to Helalia Johannes, the Namibian athlete who ran 30:59 in the Spa Ladies 10 kilometer, coincidentally also in Durban not so long ago. But Sheila Chipkarui ran the fastest 10 kilometer ever in South Africa, and a phenomenal run by the newly formed mom, to say.
Well, foreign domination in the women's race, local domination almost in the South African race, in the men's race, with Stephen Mokoka coming through for that victory in the men's race. And it looks as if Stephen Mokoka is getting ready for an interview there with Mosibodi Whitehead. We'll cross down to that right now. I'll be really interested to see what he has to say, finally breaking his duck, if you would, in the men's in the 10 kilometer in South Africa. Taru Nari now coming through. She's being chased by Glenrose Garba. See in the back there, Stella Chasang trying to make a move. Glenrose is not going to catch Taru, and I think the South Africans here were left a little bit out in the loop here against the internationals.
Yeah, we saw a complete difference in the men's race as the South Africans took the title there. But, for the women's race, 32:33, really quick time there by the Nedbank Running Club athlete Taru Naru, a well-known athlete here in KZN and South Africa especially. She bases herself in Johannesburg, and Glenrose Kaba will be coming just behind her. And if I'm not mistaken, Manfred, that's a PB as well for Glenrose Kaba. Very, very good performance there by the athlete in the colours of Boxer Running Club, with Stella Chasang, the defending champion, having a not so good day in the office, but still the sub 33 minute 10k. Brilliant effort.
Well, Stella Chasang will be disappointed. Glenrose can be ecstatic. That is a massive PB. 32:59 is what it was coming in, and now it's even faster. It looked like she had break taken maybe 14 seconds, and here comes Gerd de Steen, 33:21. Well, it is faster than last year, but and she does look like she's had a hard run. Certainly, this was real racing, I think, for Gerd over a 10k for the first time in a long time.
Yeah, 33:21, a brilliant performance there by Gerd de Steen, who's training for the upcoming New York City Marathon. As we see Yvette van Zyl in the colours of Nedbank Running Club coming through. She'll be a bit disappointed from last year's run where she ran at 32:06, but still coming back from that operation. Brilliant performance by Yvette.
Well, on the finish line now, Mosibodi has the two champions, Stephen Mokoka and Sheila Chipkarui, and Mosibodi will be chatting to our two winners there on the finish line. Down there to Mosibodi.
We're down here at the finish of the FNB Durban 10 kilometer city surf run with the champion, the first ever South African to win the Durban edition of the FNB Run Your City series. Stephen, how was the race?
I mean, it's tough. My legs are not okay yet. I think I'm still feeling the marathon, but I can say I survived because we went like through 5K. 14:27, so it was a little bit comfortable, but because the second half we went 13, it became uncomfortable. It shows that the marathon is still in my legs, but I'm happy about the victory, but not the victory on its own, but I ran my first fastest South African time in the home soil, 28:12, so I'm happy, I'm improving. I started with 28:20, now 18 last year, now I broke 6 seconds, so I'm very happy. It shows that I'm progressing.
And the race unfolded exactly as you spoke about it. You said, if we don't go too fast, not too far under 14 minutes by 5Ks, then I can stick to them and see what happens. And 14:20 through 5Ks gave you a chance and you used your kick. You've still got that kick even after years of running the marathon.
I think it was just the pace change. It's not the kick as such. The first half we didn't go fast, so the second half, that's why I normally push when I run, because you win the race in the second half. That's why you have to go negative split. So I think we ran like a 13:55 or 13:52, I think. So I think that's why I survived. So I'm very happy because I didn't run too much, only the 5K. I think I ran only the 5K, the last 5 kilometers.
And then that nickname, Tempi, it looks like it's coming true now because you run a marathon, a week later you win the FNB Durban 10K run. It shows that you're a man of steel, that even a week after the marathon you're still able to do well.
I think my coach always says after a marathon you get stronger, but only for 1 week or 2 weeks. He normally says the first 2 weeks you think you are strong, but after 3 weeks everything comes into the body. I mean, if you've got torn tissues or torn muscles, they will report after 3 weeks. So I think maybe for now I'm still okay, but I don't know what will happen in the next 3 weeks. So the only thing I have to do, I just take a rest and relax.
So this is the end of your season. Lastly, Stephen, family time now?
Yeah, I miss my home, to sit at home and relax. You know, it's time for me to wake up next to my family, not when they wake up they find me I'm not in the house. So I think I'm just going to take a rest and relax a little bit and build up for next year.
Congratulations, well done on winning the 2019 FNB Durban 10 kilometer city surf run.
Thank you.
Stephen Mokoka, the men's champion, and let's hear from the ladies champion. She spoke earlier on before the start of the race, Sheila Chepkerui of Kenya, that she was feeling a little bit tense. She was worried about the weather. Firstly, congratulations. Well done. How do you feel about your race today?
I'm very happy for today's performance.
And how do you feel about the time? Because this time is a new course record and an all-comers record for foreigners running in South Africa. So how do you feel about the excellent time that you've been able to run here this morning?
I'm really excited for the time which I have run today because this was my first time doing road race in South Africa. And I'm really happy with the performance.
So you'll be back in South Africa again, eh?
Yes.
She says with a smile on her face. Lastly, we saw in the bunch, Beatrice, they were almost acting like pacemakers for you. You were hanging back. On Thursday in the press conference, on Friday in the press conference, you said that you will watch them. Is that what happened?
Yes.
You didn't let them, you didn't go so they can watch you. You waited a little bit.
I'm not a front runner always, so I usually stay at the back.
Okay, so what's left for you? Any more races in 2019?
No.
That's it?
Yes.
So a wonderful way to end your season, winning a race in an excellent time.
Thank you.
Well done, Sheila Chepkerui. I love it, and she says she'll be back in South Africa soon. We'll have more from the finish line of the FNB 10 kilometer city surf run. We've got Glen Rose Xaba, the first South African lady. Glen Rose, uzizwa kanjani njengoba uphume first South African, benjani race namhlanje?
I can say that I'm very happy about the race of today, even though it was windy when we go through. But I'm very happy to run a PB. It's something special for me.
Exactly, and you're in great form because recently in Argentina, you ran a PB over the half marathon distance. Now again a PB over 10 kilometers. It means things have been going well for you in the last few months.
Yeah, I'm very happy because it was so very tough for me the beginning of the year. I was facing with many injuries, but now I'm very healed proper. I need to just focus and doing good.
And then what's left for you in 2019?
2019, I think it was a great year for me. Even the beginning of the year was not a good year for me.
So that's it, your season is finished now?
No, my season is not finished yet. I'm going for Lisbon Marathon if my visa came early.
Oh, lovely, the Lisbon Marathon.
Yes.
So this was an important part of your preparation for that?
Yes, I can say it was very part of the preparation to run very fast so that I can handle the ladies of Lisbon and go maybe a PB or go for 70. It will be fine for me.
Lastly, Glenrose, what is it like to have top runners coming from other parts of the world, from East Africa, to come to South Africa to race against us here? Because usually the case is you have to go far away to Europe or to South America to race. What is it like to have all these people being brought here by the FNB Run Your City series?
I can say it is a very good thing because they're pushing us to go for PBs and running very fast time in South Africa, especially in FNB. The courses are very flat and fast, like European courses.
Glenrose, well done. Glenrose Klava, well done, and all the best for your half marathon in Lisbon.
Thank you.
That's Glenrose Klava, and she's the first South African female to finish here in a new personal best time. It shows that the course is fast and flat, and even though there was a little bit of wind out on the streets in Durban this morning, we saw an absolutely fantastic race. Stephen Lesego Mokoka is the men's champion, while Sheila Chepkarui won the women's race of the FNB Durban 10-kilometer City Surf Run.
Well, you heard it there from the men's and women's winner. Confirmation then of the results. Stephen Lesego, Stephen Mokoka, finally breaking his duck of a 10-kilometer victory here in South Africa. 28:12, better time than last year. Stephen Kisa, once again, the bridesmaid, so to speak. He was second here in 2017. He was fourth here last year. Kevin Kibet rounding out the top three. Good run by Precious Mashele. One day he's going to make that breakthrough and start getting onto the podium against these international athletes. Impressive run by Colin Malautsi too, down in 7th. And Umbulele Matanga, 28:35. The homeboy, the local boy, they'll be very proud of him here in Durban. Well, Sheila Chepkarui and Evelyn Churcher breaking 31 minutes. Beatrice Mutai just outside of it. Sheila Chepkarui, of course, the world, the fastest in the world this year. And a very, very good run by Glenrose Klava. 32:45, a personal best, improvement on a personal best by 14 seconds. She'll be extremely happy. You heard how happy she was early on. Stella Chasang, the defending champion, finishing down there in 7th.
Fantastic, well done, William. That just goes to show that you can do it. The race not always go to plan, but you cross that line.
Well, it was a phenomenal run by Stephen Mokoka. Very happy to take the lead. But the clock's still going for a lot of these runners. Right now, race time is 42 minutes. So a lot of athletes will be coming through now. Sub 45, it's a big goal for a lot of the runners now.
Yeah, definitely. 45 minutes is 4:30 per kilometer, and I must say, Manfred, it is howling gales down here on the Durban beachfront. It is extremely windy, and if you had told me before the race that a 33:15 in the women's race would give you 10th place, I would have said you're joking. The women really came out here today to run fast, and there was some phenomenal racing there, as we saw Chepkarui taking that title, the fastest time ever in South African soil for a female runner over 10 kilometers. But a lot of athletes here coming through the line. 43:15 now, the official time, and Manfred, is going to be exciting to see where those pre-race interviews where Mosi Bodi did with the athletes at the start, whether the gentleman improved his time from 47 to 30. I highly doubt it, but one of the female athletes that he interviewed was looking at a time of around 45 minutes, so keep an eye out for her.
Well, yeah, Kuhn, it's really good to see how many athletes are coming through. And a certain huge entertainment here on the finish line. It's become a tradition at the FNB Run Your City series. There's always entertainment along the route and at the finish line. But very, very good to see how these runners are now beginning to come through here on the finish line. And they don't look the worst for wear. I reckon a lot of these guys could have gone a little bit harder.
Yeah, I think the wind definitely would have slowed them down. You know, it is quite strong here, but as I mentioned before, coming onto this beachfront stretch, they have the wind behind their back, so they'll have a very, very fast finish. And we can actually see, just looking over my shoulder here at the finish line, the athletes are literally sprinting over the line, so that wind definitely helping them. As I see Brett Challenor running under 45 minutes, the husband of Jenna, who finished a good 10 minutes ahead of her husband, but you know, still a great run there by Brett, and I'm sure Jenna will be very, very happy with her run today. She's preparing for an international marathon, and happy with Brett runs too.
Well, Jenna was joking yesterday that she's tired of Brett not coming to races. He now needs to run races with her. So there you go, Brett. Challenge is accepted. Speaking of challenges, Mosibodi Whitehead will at a later stage go down to the Puma sprint and give it his best shot. We've been talking about 17 seconds, and 17 seconds is, of course, every single 100 meters that Eliud Kipchoge ran in his attempt yesterday to run for 1:59. 422 times he ran 17 seconds.
Yeah, that was really out of this world, Manfred, and that was the average, was 17 seconds over 100 meters, but I think his final 100 meter might have been closer towards a 14 or 15 when he dropped that 240 kilometer.
Well, Mosibodi, 14 seconds it is going to be for 100 meters, and I hope you can hear that, but the masses are now coming in their droves. Remember, 9,000 runners, and most of them will be coming in round about 9 o'clock, 9:30.
Manfred, not to put you on the spot or anything, but in your current shape, what do you think you'd do a 10K in?
I wouldn't.
But you know, the 10 kilometer distance is a really nice event to take part in for everywhere from the elite athlete in the front to you know, a beginner athlete, even someone who's never run or walked a distance in their life. 10 kilometers is a really nice event, and you know, not to go so far like a half marathon, which is a bit unattainable for a few people running here today, but also 10 kilometer a stepping stone for distance up there towards the half marathon. And so we heard Denro Zarkaba in an interview saying that she was preparing for an international race, and it seems that with Denro Zarkaba, the further the distance, the better she gets. Indeed, she does. A lot of speculation about what she would end up doing in the marathon. I hope she doesn't go to the marathon just yet. What I have noticed with these F&B Run Your City series and road running in particular is a lot of people who are not part of clubs. Durban, though, seems to be a little bit different. There's a lot of club athletes competing here, almost like there's a resurgence in club running here in Durban. Yeah, it's definitely, you know, Durban is becoming a running hub, so to speak, in South Africa. You know, the famous park runs that take place all around South Africa. Durban hosts actually the world record for the most park run participants in a single event, and that's actually here on this stretch where we are. That belongs to the North Beach Park Run. And yeah, you know, the whole of Durban coming together today, close to 10,000 athletes in the Durban FNB Durban 10 kilometer, and perhaps next year, Manfred, if we're not doing the commentary, I think this is a race we need to do.
And challenge not accepted at this stage. Look, it has got to be one of those races that has to be on your bucket list. It is fast and flat. So if you're looking for a good time, this is where you do it. If you're looking for entertainment, this is where you come and do it. And if you're looking to get introduced to running at a more competitive level, if you would, than a park run, this is where you want to be. You can see by the droves of the runners coming through that certainly the F&B Run Your City series has made an impact, and people are becoming excited to be running again. A healthy nation is very, very good, and of course the more, and I see the turban there of Blanche Moyler. Did I see Blanche Moyler there on the right hand side, just to the left of the DHL sign? Is Blanche Moyler coming, of course, a legend here, not only in KZN but also in South Africa.
Yeah, definitely Blanche Moyle, the queen, so to speak, of running in KZN and also the country. You know, she's run, if I have to think back, Manfred, over 30 years her career in running that she's done in the sport. And not only herself a former elite athlete, but she's a coach, she's a mentor. You know, she's highly respected in women's circles around KZN, and she's always easily to identify with that white hat that she always wears on her head. And that's 60 on her vest, Manfred, being over 60 years of age. A brilliant performance, still breaking 50 minutes here today.
Well, Blanche Moyle coming across the finish line. She does look like she's having a bit of a hard run out there, but it's all fun for her. And as you said, a very popular figure here. Blanche Moyle does seem to be, it looked like she was a hard run.
Yeah, well, to break 50 minutes over 10 kilometers, it's a really good running, under 5 minutes per kilometer. And I know we always make reference to parkrun and such, and if you had to just make an example of that, that's back-to-back under 25 minutes there for Blanche Moyle. So over 60 years of age, a brilliant performance by the well-known local KZN athlete.
Blanche looking happy now that she's crossed the finish line, and as we've said a couple of times, an icon here in South Africa on the road running scene, and certainly has inspired a lot of women to come to take to the roads. Also a full-time nurse, so a lot of hours on the feet, and just at the age, we're not supposed to say this, but the age of 60, still doing between 60 and 70 kilometers a week, and that certainly is very inspiring.
And if I'm not mistaken, Manfred, she could possibly also be the first grandmaster across the line. Will be interesting to see the results there, as we see some of the athletes coming through with a dog mascot there on his head, but brilliant performances by all these athletes. And you can actually see, you mentioned running is definitely on the increase in not only in South Africa but in KZN. And just to put that into perspective, Manfred, you see a lot of the different club vests. Majority of the athletes that are actually wearing the FNB Durban 10K t-shirts are actually not members of clubs. So that just shows you that these are athletes who are not actually even members of clubs, but they're interested in running. And you can see there are thousands of those FNB blue t-shirts along the route. So perhaps future club runners of the future here.
Well, indeed, and remember, over 40,000 athletes across the three races, over 40,000 runners across the three races in South Africa. The FNB Cape Town 12-1 run, that happens in May in Cape Town. It's the FNB Joburg 10K City Run, that happens on Heritage Day every year. And then, of course, we finish off here with the FNB Durban 10-kilometer City Surf Run. But Q, and interestingly also, we're now going into Maputo. We're going international.
Yeah, that's a very exciting initiative that Michael Mayer came up there with the 10 kilometer in Maputo, and it'll be interesting to see, Manfred. Do you think Stephen Mokoka might take that event on?
Well, yeah, I think Stephen Mokoka's putting his feet up right now for the rest of the year, but exciting stuff to see that a race that started a concept that started 7 years ago, and we'll speak to Michael Mayer a bit about that a little bit later. It came to fruition in 2015 with the first FNB Cape Town 12-1 run, where we brought out the great Vivian Chariot. So this race has always brought out top-class international competition. It has lifted the standard of South African running, and it certainly, as we can see here, has definitely in Durban and other parts of the country as well, certainly sort of raised the platform and has raised people's interest in running.
Definitely, and with this being an RAAF bronze label event, you know, Stephen's going to pick up some vital points today for that victory. Not only running a fast time, but picking up points for that world ranking system, which will also put him on good fare towards the rest of the world, getting appearance fees in different races. And, you know, the South African athletes don't have to go far these days to race against the best in the world. And you can see there that when the best of the world come here to South Africa, the pace, you know, is much faster, and the South African athletes are coming to the fore now. It's nice to see the athletes stepping up to the party, so to speak.
Well, speaking of Stephen Mokoka, we're going to have a quick look back now at how that men's race unfolded as Stephen Mokoka took his first 10-kilometer victory on the roads in South Africa in countless of years. So, The elite athletes went off first, and it was a big bunch. Certainly the contenders field is growing. The organisers doing a fantastic job of getting this contenders field to get bigger and bigger every year. In the early stages, Elroy Galan certainly very prominent. Stephen Kieser, who was going for a sub 28, or rather sub 27, was sitting in the bunch at that point. At the early stage of the race, and a big men's bunch still together. But Kieran, it started to heat up very shortly after this.
Yeah, definitely. As the athletes made their way onto Masabalala Yengwe Avenue, it was Stephen Kieser, the Ugandan, who had found himself on the podium here twice over the last 2 years, that had said to the guys, you know, we're here not for a holiday camp, this is a race, let's make it harder. And it was Kieser who took the lead in the front, with William Sitonic, the 2650 10-kilometer athlete, just behind him. But at this stage, still a host of athletes in contention, quite strong, stark contrast to what we had seen in the previous editions of the FNB Durban City 10-kilometer.
Well, Stephen Kieser had to take the race by the scruff of the neck. He had to start injecting some pace because it was bunching. 2 kilometers they went through in just under 6 minutes, if I remember correctly, Kieran. And Stephen Kieser had to drive this, but this is the point where they started to string out a little bit, but still a very big bunch this early on in the race, and something we were not used to in this series.
Yeah, in past editions we saw the Swiss and European record holder Julian Wonders, who had really taken things out hard. But in this event, the wind was very strong today. The athletes, definitely in the men's race, so to speak, were going a lot slower as they made their way past the Moses Mabhida Stadium, the iconic Moses Mabhida Stadium from the 2010 Soccer World Cup. And that 2-kilometer split, Manfred, was 5:51, and I would say over past years probably around 20 seconds slower to what we've seen before. So it was definitely a tactical affair in the men's race, as we saw Stephen Kieser, the Nike athlete from Uganda, that was trying to string things along.
Well, this is the point where the men's race looked like it was becoming a little bit faster, but they did end up bunching a little bit at one stage. Stephen Kieser decided, you know what, I've done my stint on the front, and this is where they then started to bunch up again. It was almost in the first half of the race, which was a pretty fast first half, 14:21, as if the runners were doing a bit more fartlek as opposed to flat-out racing.
Yeah, definitely, Manfred. And, you know, this was because of the start was a little bit slower in terms of the pace. As you mentioned there, 14:21 through the first 5-kilometer mark. That definitely played into the hands of athletes like Stephen Mokoka and Elroy Galan, who had recently just run marathons. So, you know, that marathon was still in their legs. And when you've got a marathon in your legs, you don't have that zippiness in your legs, that high turnover, compared to the guys who specialize in 10 and 21 kilometers as they made their way through that FNB water point.
Well, big bunch going through that water point with all the main contenders still in it. They're on the left-hand side. Stephen Kieser, who was the pre-race favourite, certainly the fastest in the field with a 27:13, and was tipped to be the man to take the race by the scruff of the neck. And did say, as they went there through 4 kilometers, they did say that he doesn't mind being the favorite. He doesn't feel any pressure, that Stephen Kieser, but he certainly did have to work very hard here. Elroy Galan looking very comfortable. What was very interesting to me, Kuhn, is that at this point in time, Elroy was prominent to a degree, so was Stephen Mokoka, but no sign of Precious Mashela. He was sitting in the back of that bunch running a very shrewd race.
Yeah, Precious, as you can see, if you had to look at the back of that pack, there's the very short figure with the NN running vest and black running shorts. That was Precious Mashele, SA 10-kilometer champion. And the only time we saw him was towards the end of the race. He ran a very clever race. Definitely, I would say, the best tactic in a very windy race like we've seen today, just to sit in the back there and watch how easy the guys were going. But it was Kevin Kibet from Kenya, as well as Stephen Kisa, the Ugandan, who was trying to string things along. But as they made their way past the Kingsmead Stadium, Manfred, and towards the inner city centre, towards the Durban City Hall, it was Stephen Mokoka and Elrith Galant, the two South African athletes, together with Matanga, the local athletes in the colours of Pantane, who started to stretch things out. And from that, we could tell we were going to see something amazing fireworks about to happen.
Well, this was around about the halfway mark as they went through the F&B platform. And this is where the surges then also started to happen. Very, very different picture to what we've seen in the previous years with the racing. William Satonic in the back and in the field there. Stephen Kisa looking to make his presence felt again, and this is where Stephen Mokoka started to come through. This was just after the halfway mark, and he decided, hey guys, I'm still here. There he is looking around. He tends to do that. When he does that, you know he's very confident.
Yeah, definitely. We also saw that in the Doha World Championships, where Stephen kept looking behind. But it was on the far right-hand side of the screen, Sibusiso Nzima, the athlete in the colours of Nedbank Running Club, former SA 10-kilometre champion himself, that came through. And the two boxer athletes, Stephen Mokoka and Elrith Galant, you can almost see that they picked that up with Nzima putting through the surge there, and they were not going to let him go. And credit to Nzima trying to come through and run a quick time.
Sibusiso Nzima, we did mention he coaches himself, and he has had a few rough years the last couple of years with injury, but he's never been afraid to take the race by the scruff of the neck, never been afraid to lead from the front and throw in some surges, and it's only a matter of time, I believe, that he'll make yet another breakthrough. And still, this was a very, very big bunch as we got almost to the 7-kilometre mark here. In the race, but Stephen Mokoka now very much part of that front bunch. Sibusiso Nzima still driving it. Alroy sitting in the back there. Precious Michelle is sitting in the back. And Stephen Kisa on the shoulder of Nzima. William Satonic there as well, looking very, very good. Bernard B also in that big group on this men's field. And at this point in time, quite interesting, the elite guys coming close to the finish. You've still got a very strong, prominent group of runners, fast runners going past them. This is the Puma 100-meter sprint, which certainly saw a pace injection at this point in the race. This was at 7.6 kilometers.
Yeah, definitely, and it was Alfred Ngeno, the FNB Joburg 10-kilometer champion, who actually picked up that pace through that Puma 100-meter sprint. And it was as they made their way through to the beachfront that Precious Mashele in the colours of NN Running came through to the forefront. And this was the first time, Manfred, that he actually went through to the lead. He had bided his time in the back of the pack, but as they got to the 8-kilometer mark, it was a Precious Mashele, but Stephen Mokoka was having none of that as they went through the DHL cheer point there. And Mokoka, you can see that right on his toes, that track pedigree. He's retired from the track now as he focuses on the marathon, but that track pedigree will never leave him. And you can see that running style, very high knee lift, high drive. And this was his final race, as he was saying. He had a very long season, and his wife, Zintle Mokoka, daughter of the late great Zutulele Sinkle, they were at home with their son, and no doubt watching this live broadcast, Manfred.
Well, certainly looking forward to having Stephen Mokoka back, but that was a very decisive move. At some stage we thought maybe, just maybe, Stephen had gone a little bit too early, but he had certainly thrown the hammer down. That was a massive challenge, and you really had to destroy Stephen if you were going to come back and win this. All the experience, all the years, and a big win for him. As I mentioned earlier, that he hasn't taken a 10-kilometer win here in South Africa in many, many years.
Yeah, definitely. Stephen, in the colours of Boxer Athletics Club, taking the victory here today. And the time now that we were going to be asking ourselves is, what time was he going to run? We saw that very, very slow start to the men's race. We say slow. Many people would love to run the speed that they were running, but in terms of the world-class athletes that were assembled, it was quite a slow time that they started with. They went through the 5-kilometer halfway point in 14:21, and now was the question, how close to a sub-28 could Stephen Mokoka get? But as I mentioned earlier, that records are there to be broken, but the titles will forever stay. And this was a title that Stephen Mokoka wanted more than anybody else in this race. The title, the champion of the Durban City FNB 10-kilometer.
Well, Stephen Mokoka really, really gunning it, and this is a long stretch, and the agony on the athlete's face is pretty intense. That finish line just doesn't want to come any closer. Glance over the shoulders there by Stephen Mokoka. He knew he was being chased by Stephen Kisa as well as Precious Machila, a little bit further in the background there, but Stephen Mokoka certainly had that one in the bag, and he had come through in his fastest time on this course and one of the fastest times in South Africa. 28:12 was that official time.
And just behind him was Stephen Kisa, the Ugandan athlete who was looking for a victory, followed by Kevin Kibet, himself second place in the recent FNB Joburg 10 kilometer. But it was a brilliant performance there by Mokoka, fresh off that World Championships marathon in Doha, where he finished fifth, just missing out on the medals. But if we look back, the top 10 of the FNB Durban 10K City Surf Run, Stephen Lesego Mokoka taking that victory in 28:12, 4 seconds ahead of Stephen Kisa, the Ugandan athlete, with Kevin Kibet from Kenya rounding off that podium spot 28:18. Precious Mashele, former SA 10 kilometer champion, 28:26, followed by Bekele and Gunafa in 28:33, and Wilfred Kimeli Kimatai, the Kenyan athlete based for Indy 10, rounding out the top 10 there in 28:45. Brilliant performance here today by the men in not so great conditions, given the fact that there was a lot of wind here today in Durban. But a brilliant performance there as well by Mboleli Matanga, the local athlete in the colors of Pantane Running Club, 28:35. That's his second best time compared to the 28:12 that he ran in Prague 10 kilometer not so long ago. But where we are here at the finish, just in front of the Suncoast Casino, is the runners streaming through to the finish line. Close to 10,000 athletes competing here in the FNB City Surf 10 kilometer, and brilliant athletes here today that we've seen. Running, especially in KZN and Durban, really on the increase. And as you see there, with the club vest amongst the people, all the athletes I mentioned earlier on in the blue FNB shirts, Mosibodi, they are non-club runners. So running definitely, especially in KZN, on the rise.
Definitely, and I think it's something we see across the country, because everywhere you go, you see lots and lots of temporary licenses. It shows that running is booming, and series like this, like the FNB Run Your City series, gives the novice who just goes for the odd park run or walks his dog a chance to say, let me see how far I can go. Let me run 10 kilometers and compare it to 28:12 or 27:16 and see how they fare. We're joined by Athletics South Africa President Alex Kosana, because we are Ekagasini Kapanana Nomoba for the Durban 10 kilometer run, and of course it's brought to you by FNB. Babs Kosana, firstly welcome, and how do you feel about the way this day has gone so far?
No, thank you very much for having me. It's quite an interesting day. If you look at the performances of our athletes from the continent in particular, it shows that there is a great improvement in road running, and most importantly the 10K. You see the times, but I'm more focused to the South Africans because they have outclipped the Kenyans and the Ethiopians. What else can I say? I'm very interested in that. But the event looks beautiful. It's easy, well organized. It's a good flow, flat course, and what have you. Yes.
I mean, just in winning the ladies' race, Sheila Chepkuri spoke about, for her, it was her first time in South Africa. And I know that when you go to CAA and you discuss as different African federations, there's always this feeling that we need more world-class races on the African continent, whereby Africans don't always have to travel to Europe to set their fast times, but can travel around the continent and race. So, I mean, you must be proud that South Africa is able to deliver a bronze status race like this thanks to FNB, and that it gives an opportunity for athletes from across the continent to come here and set some really good times.
Well, you're right. There is a great need for African athletes not to travel to different parts of the world in order to do their best. And South Africa is one of those countries that can offer what the world can offer. We can even offer the best. And this is one of the races that we can be able to use for the African Championships and for any other purpose. So we are quite excited. But if you follow news in athletics, you know that there is an African continental tour that is going to start next year. It's on the road, it's cross country as well as track. There are about 6 competitions that must move from Joburg or South Africa to Kenya to Ethiopia to Nigeria, right up to Morocco. So it offers opportunities like this. We've already discussed it, and it's a matter of packaging it in such a way that it is going to be successful rather than to have a handful of athletes. So it must be part of the established races like this, and we improve and we get better sponsors and partners that will take this to the biggest in the world, rather than for our 10K fastest times to be set somewhere in Europe. They must be set on an African soil, because the African athletes are dominating this event.
And I guess it would not be possible without having so many sponsors like you mentioned. I just look around, I see FNB, I see Puma, I see Mitsubishi, I see DHL, I see East Coast Radio, who have all come on board to make a race like this possible. And of course now it's growing into other parts of the continent. We'll have an FNB 10-kilometer race in Maputo not in the not too distant future, happening in November. How important is it for athletics in general to keep